So I want to welcome Dave Seymour here from Freedom Adventures. And Dave is going to be talking about passive cash flow. Everyone knows Dave from the start of A&E's Flipping Boston, from A&E for 5 years. And it's one of my personal favorite shows on A&E personally. But it's an honor to have Dave here at the High Performance Sesame, sharing his wisdom, his knowledge, his expertise on how to create your cash flow.
These wealth creation type learning environments, you'll hear a lot about the story of the presenter, and they're very diverse. Some people have the exposure early in their lives and their careers of creating wealth and money management. Maybe they step into mom or dad's business, or they learn that business, they're proficient in whatever that business is. And then there are people like myself, and you'll hear a lot of folks similar to me in the sense that, maybe they came from a W-2 environment. I talk a lot today about how how I'm a blue collar guy in a white collar world. And what I mean by that is that when I was growing up, I'm an immigrant to this country. I'm from England originally. I immigrated back in '86, but the culture that I grew up in was not oriented towards wealth creation. It was not oriented towards being able to live a lifestyle that is kind of free. My culture was very blue collar, like I said. My father was a heating and air conditioning guy. My mom was a secretary at a bank. And I don't know if you resonate with this, but my father's best advice was work hard, right? Do your solid 8 hours. Don't ask too many questions. If you're lucky, you'll have enough of a retirement at the age of, 65, 70, maybe live a couple of years after that, maybe have a couple of kids at a house along the way, or maybes, go watch and, then you take the big dirt nap. And look, there's nothing wrong with trading time for money. We all need that workforce around us. But if there is a discontent with that, if there is a disconnect with the message that seems to be perpetuated generation after generation, then you could very well be in the right place. So for me, coming to the States in '86, I was following my first wife, and I had 10 W-2s in my first year, and I didn't know what a W-2 was until I realized that it meant that I was really unemployable. And moved around a little bit, and then ended up here in New England, and settled down a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit, and found a career that I loved then and love today, and that was being a firefighter and a paramedic. I worked here in the city of Lynn, Massachusetts. And if you're familiar with Mass, if you're a Mass hole, then you'll be familiar with Lynn, the city of sin. You never come out the way you went in. And I worked in a city firefighting, and I absolutely adored it. I loved it. Didn't like the politics, didn't like the BS, but I absolutely loved the adrenaline rush. I loved to be of service in my community. Oriented in that way was very rewarding. I always talk about when everybody else is running out, we go running in. And I think if you listen carefully, there's a business formula in there somewhere. I think it was Warren Buffett who said, when everybody is greedy, be fearful. When everybody is fearful, be greedy. So, I think you can all agree we're in a time of somewhat fear and scarcity coming out of the COVID crisis. What's going on the other side of the world in Europe right now, horrific stories. So all of that, perpetuates into what goes on today. So anyway, look, I'm a firefighter. I'm loving what I'm doing. And I'm also a financial donkey. And what I mean by that is that I didn't understand capital. I didn't understand money. I didn't understand velocity of capital. Didn't understand business. I'm working construction on my days off, trying to make ends meet. I'm working retail security nights and weekends to make ends meet, and found myself trading 120 hours every single week for somebody else's dreams, hopes, inspiration, and their lifestyle, not mine. And the hard part of it is you trade time for money, take care of family, and yet all that time away from the family destroys the family lifestyle, or it did for me. Anyway, I can only talk for myself. and found myself in a real estate seminar. I'm a product of real estate education, training, education, personal development, wealth creation events just like this one. But what I did was I began to hear things I'd never heard before. I began to hear things like the number one investment is an investment in yourself. Get a job to pay the bills, but invest in yourself to pay you for a lifetime. And I started following a lot of teachings for a lot of different, personal development guys out there. Jim Rohn, who was the mentor to Tony Robbins, and then my very dear friend Jack Canfield. I became a student of The Secret of Success. And what I did was, and this is a key for everybody, was I applied what I learned. It's okay to be a student, right? Education is critical, but you don't get paid for education. You receive profits through implementation of the education. And I was an implementer. I didn't get it right every time, that's for sure. But what I did find out is that if I just stayed the course, if I put one foot in front of the other, then magic began to happen. And within, I would say, 18 to 24 months of starting my journey into entrepreneurship, I had to make one of the most painful decisions I ever had to make, which was, should I stay in the firehouse? Should I continue to be a firefighter? Because what had happened is it was costing me money to go to work. Let me say that again. It cost me money to go to work. And I made that transition to full time. And it was a blessing for me. It was a blessing. Approximately 15 years ago, I transitioned full time into real estate investing. And as Jason said, you might have recognized me from the TV show Flippin' Boston, which was fun. It was great. It was applicable. We were coming out at the time when the market was trying to get some lifeblood back into it, and house flipping was cool once again. And that gave me the ability to get some recognition and to open some doors that a lot of other people would have a challenge opening it. I find myself on the Today Show and Rachel Ray, and I got a little clip. I'll share it with you in a minute of some of the things we did on that show. So very powerful. But what that show did was it launched my career to be where I am today. And we're going to talk about passive income. We're going to talk about partnerships. We're going to talk about investor club relationships. I'll share with you some real deals that we've been doing in the Southwest Florida market. Well, how do you do that when Dave's sitting up here in the Boston market? Well, that's team, right? That's your teamwork. That's the power team strategy that you may have heard about. And I'll share a little bit of that with you as well. So today it's put me in a position where I'm doing hundreds of millions of dollars of real estate all at the same time. And I have to pinch myself on occasions to really look back at where I've been. And the magic of this process is this. It's repeatable. Everything is duplicatable. There is no original idea. It's just a case of implementing the ideas that are there. I don't want to be a groundbreaker. I don't want students that work with us and partnerships that I have to be breaking new ground. Let's just take what's already out there and make it a little bit better. And if we do that, it comes under the moniker of R&D. Some people call it research and development. We have a little tongue-in-cheek around here, and that's rip off and duplicate. One thing I will tell you before I go into this presentation, you will never see me sitting there with $1 million in cash sitting on a table and enticing you to do what I do, thinking you're going to make that $1 million. I don't think that's fair. I don't think it's appropriate. We'll never bring people or attract people based off of the fact that I can fly around in a private jet, for example, or drive a Bugatti. It's not who I am. I'm a family man with a wife and children. And the people who partner with us, invest with us, and come into our community are people with similar values. So no offense to anybody who just, they're getting into real estate so they can drive a Bugatti, God bless you. But if that's your only reason, then you're probably not a good fit for the way we do business around here. So let's share this screen. Let's get into it a little bit, and we'll see if we can educate you and at the same time maybe inspire you a little bit as well as to what the opportunities are that are out there in the marketplace and how you can potentially participate as well. So let's see if this all works. Hopefully it does. Hey, Jason, shoot me a text or an email. Let me know if this is not working appropriately, but I think that it will. Here we go.
Big resurgence in house flipping, up 25% for the first half of this year. But this time, it is different. Is there a new normal in house flipping? Well, let's ask the stars of A&E Network's Flipping Boston, Dave Seymour and Peter Solaris. Dave, Pete, great to have you on the show today.
Hello, boys.
Hi, ladies.
Y'all looking good.
Good to be back.
Are we starting in the kitchen? We heard a rumor.
Let's go. Let's do the kitchen.
So, okay.
Yuck. The befores always shock me.
It has been a big week for Boston, and as beautiful as the city already is, two handy guys are giving it a makeover, one house at a time.
They are Peter Solaris and Dave Seymour from the A&E show Flipping Boston.
It's Tridy Friday, and if you've been thinking about sprucing up your home but you don't know where to start, we've got two guys who can help you out.
Peter Solaris and Dave Seymour. They're real estate buddies and the stars of A&E's Flipping Boston, and they've got some ideas they say will add huge bragging rights to any home. I can't believe they're here again.
Dave, Pete, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys. Can you see up over the wheel? I got a phone book. Look at this thing, dude. It looks dated and it looks tired and old. She said we could get in, dude. Whoops. Note to self, change back lock. This is ideal for someone like Dave and myself to come in here, gut this thing out to make some money.
Pete, I can taste that.
Dude, don't worry about that. We'll take that. I need 2 weeks of your help in here. I'll put a crew together. You project manage them.
All right, you got it. What the?
That goes back 15 feet.
How far, Peter?
Walk. Ooh, it's more expensive. No, walk.
Going all in.
Walk. Stop.
As we say back in England, it warms the cockles of my heart.
Dave, you think you can get some pizza, Dave?
So far, so good. Keep it up.
Get back. Love, late night love.
Huh? This was the worst idea we ever came up with. Watch out for the hole. I'll show these puppies how to get it done. Wish me luck.
I want someone to just hold this up for a second.
It looks great. Stick a screw in it. Floor's done, kitchen done, landscaping done. The only thing missing is a check in my back pocket.
You gotta step back. Oh, look at this. That's sharp. That really is sharp.
I got a little of that going on.
All right, settle down, Dave.
This is freaking awesome.
Hey, look at that, Dave.
You do what you do. I'll do what I do. Let's get out of here and go sell another one. All right, as you can see there, we had a lot of fun doing that show. So let's talk about progression. I started flipping houses, made our money. It was still a job. You didn't flip a house, you didn't get paid. So I learned very early in my career about passive income. How do I put the money to work? How do I get somebody else to go to work, trade their time for money, and be able to create income for me? And we've done that through both our residential buy and hold strategies as well as larger commercial assets. What you see here is some of our deal flow. We are investing primarily and developing in Southwest Florida, Cape Coral, Fort Myers, Punta Gorda. We've got some work going on in Tampa. So we're heavily invested in that market. And the reason that we're invested in there is because it makes sense. So as I said, I started with active income. There's a transition, I think. Active income has always been a big piece of my journey, if you will. It allowed me to pay down the debt that I was carrying from being financially incoherent. Active income allowed me to, fix up my own home, allowed me to be able to go eat in a restaurant. I learned about tax strategies and the fact that as soon as I'm in business and I have a business, my tax exposure is a lot different. Simple things that I learned along the way. So it solved problems is what it did. Maybe it could solve a problem for you. I don't know. But I still needed to work that job to be able to be in a position. And don't get me wrong, it was a well-paying
position that I was in as a professional real estate house flipper. We transitioned over time and at the same time into the passive income, residential rental properties. Jokingly, they call that mailbox money. One of the best experiences was at the end of the month, going to bed with X amount of dollars in the bank, and then on the first day, waking up the next day with an increase in capital in that same bank account. That's what professional real estate investors experience. They experience that because they've taken the action and put themselves out in a position to be able to gain those benefits, to create that passive income towards them. And at some point or another, there is that transition towards legacy. Earlier for some, later for others. Legacy is that piece, and I describe it this way for me personally, is when I look at the Seymour family tree, and they look up at that tree. At one point, it bifurcates and it turns off to the left or the right. Well, that's the time that I decided that I was no longer going to trade my time for somebody else's money, but I was going to invest in myself first, and then put those new skill sets and actions in place. And that's what my legacy will really be about. My sons, I don't teach them how to get a job. I teach them how to buy a business and start a business. And it's amazing how much they really listen to. They are sponges, absorbing the information that's around them. And I'm blessed. God is good, not just one time, but all the time. It's a blessing for me to be able to be in that position where I get to influence these young minds. And they can still choose, don't get me wrong. But they're just getting a different sheet of music to play from moving forward today. So assets create a lifestyle. This is basically an income and expense ratio, or a profit and loss, however you want to talk about it. But most people, they create income through their what, right? Through their job, their job. Well, that has a shelf. There is a limit. Doesn't matter whether you're a brain surgeon or whether you're working at Amazon. There is a shelf, a glass ceiling that is very hard to break through, up until the point that you learn to let money work instead of the individual work. So I'll say that again: money work for you instead of you working for money. So if we can change out that income component, there's always expenses, right? More income, less expenses is what we're looking for. But if we do that through assets, the asset then pays the income and not us trading that time. Warren Buffett has the same amount of hours in a week that I do, or you do, or anybody else. And yet for some reason, how is it that they live the lifestyle, or they have the financial net worth that a lot of people strive for or would look for going forward? So thinking about assets paying the bills instead of us working to pay the bills is a strategy. And then how do you take liabilities and turn them into assets? That single family home that some people live in, they always say, well, it's an asset. Well, what is the definition of an asset and a liability? An asset takes money out of my pocket. Sorry, an asset puts money in my pocket, and a liability takes money out of my pocket. So that primary residence that I own, my own home, it's not an asset, it's a liability. Yeah, it's got equity in it, but it doesn't mean that it's an asset because it doesn't pay me. It costs me to live in that home, right? Either through a mortgage or taxes. Even with no mortgage on there, it's still a liability, not an asset. I get it. There's equity in real estate, but if you don't tap the equity, that money's just sitting still doing nothing going forward. So let's talk about leverage. This class, this training, if you will, like I said, is partnering on passive cash flow. It's the ability to, one, learn the business, and two, at the same time, leverage somebody else's experience, leverage somebody else's money, somebody else's time, somebody else's systems. What does systems stand for? Save yourself time, energy, money, and stress. Let me say that again. Save yourself time, energy, money, and stress. Our systems that we've deployed at Freedom Venture Investments and throughout my career as a house flipper, money lender, hard money lender, private lender, my years of experience have created my systems. I would ask you, do you think I've made some mistakes along the way? The answer is an emphatic yes. Next question would be, was there a financial cost to those mistakes? The answer to that is yes as well. Thousands, if not tens of thousands. But they were my mistakes. That was my education. That was my investment. So leveraging somebody else's knowledge could be a strategy to use to put some velocity behind an individual's goals. And again, our experience. And then the old adage, your net worth is your network, your network is your net worth. Who do you know? Who are you hanging around with? I say this with love, but when I was hanging out at the firehouse, the common denominator in that firehouse was 5 other guys, all earning the same amount of money as I did, all sharing the same political and social views most of the time. So you become a common denominator, if you will, of the 5 people you hang around with. So elevate. You might want to write that word down. Elevate your game through other people's experiences. So a commercial real estate investment, what is it? They come in different shapes and sizes, from large apartment complexes to strip malls to mixed-use properties, self-storage, light industrial. We invest primarily in existing multifamily structures and then also development work. We are heavily invested, I'll share a little bit towards the end of the presentation, heavily invested in what's called BFR, build for rent, or BTR, build to rent. In the Florida market, there is such a huge deficit in housing available that there is a new asset class, this BFR, BTR, that is being created throughout the country, but heavily in Florida, to allow for people to rent decent, new, clean, affordable homes, rather than the rehabbed homes that 80% of the single-family rental stock is older homes owned by mom and pops, around 10 to 15 single-family homes. So we see a massive opportunity to go in there. So we find properties. Once we find the properties, find the land, we got to manage the construction process. We always deal with the lender relationships. None of our investors or partners or students need to worry about finding those banking relationships. We take that responsibility, bringing in insurance agents, your CPA, your accounting team, critical piece, and then your property management. It's the manager that makes or breaks the deal. If there isn't a good management system, a good management team on an asset, involved with an asset, then that asset can very, very quickly go down the toilet. You can have a bad asset with good asset management and it can get turned around, or you can have a good asset with bad asset management and it can go in the other direction. So property management is a key piece. If we looked at a multifamily asset, this is just an example of an imaginary deal. But in a deal like this, if you look in the bottom left-hand corner, there are a couple of numbers that we focus on for analysis in commercial real estate, and we train on this. If this is brand new to you, don't get overwhelmed. We can walk you through these steps in any one of our training environments that we have. But the napkin analysis down the bottom here, we're looking at 3 numbers. The number is, first of all, capitalization rate. We look at a cash-on-cash return, and all of these numbers are based at when we buy them, right? We make our money on the buy side. We realize profits on the sell side. What does the cash-on-cash return look like on this deal? And then the debt coverage ratio is that number that we use for the bank to say, hey, it's a good deal that they want to lend on that bank. Price per square foot is pretty easy. So when we get a deal and we start to underwrite it and analyze it, but that's our sniff test. That's that 30,000-foot view. If you take notes, I tell you what, don't go crazy about taking notes. At the end of the presentation, actually write this down now. Write down IR, the 2 letters, at freedomventure.com. IR at freedomventure.com. Say it one more time. IR, Indigo Ralph, at freedomventure.com. And I'll get a copy of this PowerPoint over to you so you don't have to go crazy writing notes. But these are the formulas that we use for cap rate, net operating income divided by purchase price, cash flow, debt service coverage ratio. That's the number that the bank needs to see that the property is lendable. ROI, that's a return on investment, targeted return from a sponsor. That's what we would share with our investors. IRR stands for internal rate of return. It's the value of the investment capital over the time that it's working in a deal. And then equity multiple is a valuation that we use to show our investors what a potential return on their investment looks like. So a 2x, for example, would be a double your capital investment in a deal. You put in 100, at the end of the deal, you've made 100. That's a 2x on a capital investment. So, first of all, where do we find deals? Why are we so special? What can an investor or a student leverage? It's a process of understanding primarily what's going on in the marketplace first. Is there a need? Is there a desire? We look at the demographics and the policies around us. That tells us what's going on in the country to show us where we want to be investing and why we want to be investing there. So if we break these two down just for an example, first of all, demographics. That's our retirees. They're looking for places to live. They're looking to downsize. We've also got the millennials now that can't afford single-family homes. They're looking for a place to rent as well. So we know that the demographic, the population is right. But then we start thinking about, well, what's going on financially in the country? And look, I don't care who you are. We can all agree it's an absolute mess. And when I look at demographics and I look at finances nationwide, it sets up a pro forma in my head, or a journey. It allows me to think about and determine what's going to happen next. And I think there's going to be a massive separation between the financial classes. We know that the middle class is shrinking. We know that the wealthier classes are growing. Look, I can't control any of that. I'm not that smart. I'm a firefighter and a medic, remember? But what I can do is be in a position to assist, to give good, clean housing that's available to people, to be able to educate on retirement programs, to be able to share tax incentives that are out there for business owners. So when the government comes in place, they set that monetary policy. They also set fiscal policy, taxes and spending, interest rates and money supply. And as we know, the interest rate just popped up. Inflation is a little bit of a challenge right now. So the people that are screaming and shouting and worrying about those things are not the people who have the ability to control their financial destiny, right? If it's a W-2 employee, it could be more of a challenge for them than a business owner. We're able to make moves that an employee is not. But when we start looking at the debt that this country is in right now, I just pulled this from the usdebtclock.org. We're just shy of a spending amount. If this was a business, by the way, so if you look at this number here, the tax reserve, that's what we bring in, about $4.057 trillion, okay? But we spend $6.898 trillion. So if that's a business that makes that, but spends that, is that a business that you would be interested in investing in? I think the answer is a no, right? However, we all invest in it. It's the government. It's our taxes that we pay. So is that a problem? I think so. There's also a promise to pay retirees in that budget, which is underfunded. It's a mess. And unfortunately, it's the next generation that'll be dealing with some of these challenges going forward. And what's the government's solution to it? Well, we know what they do. They go out and just print more money, right? They continue to put money into the marketplace, PPP, EDIL, consistently, especially through the pandemic. The amount of capital that came into the circulation has been unprecedented. 80% of all US dollars in existence were printed in the last 22 months, right? 4 trillion in January of 20 trillion in October. There will be victims and victors of this, just like there were in 2005, 6, 7, and 8. The question always is, what side of the equation does somebody want to be on? Well, it's dependent upon the actions and the moves that they make, not 6 months from now, but when? Right now. Now's the time to now business. So that has a reaction, right? Every action has a equal and opposite reaction to it, and that's our inflationary costs. So inflation, around 7%, maybe more. This is from labor statistics, but that's cost of goods and services. That's cost of living, cost of life, and there's a price to pay for all of that. So, how do you solve it? We solve it with commercial real estate. It's always been the number one hedge statistically against inflation. Again, only if you buy right? If there's been a tight deal that's been put together and inflation comes in and kicks you in the teeth, then the deal can go sideways. But if you buy them right, if you don't buy on tight margins, when inflation and interest rates move, it puts us in a position where we're still able to maintain profit in the deal. Maybe not as much as we pro forma, maybe less, who knows? But, we have a comfort level when we do these deals. So we find our deals through a number of different avenues. We, first of all, always want to identify the very best markets that we want to be doing business in. We do this through a systemized approach. We use a market matrix. We teach this. We share this with people who want to learn how to do this business, as well as people who just want to invest passively in this business. But I like to go through that matrix and see that all of the indicators are there for us to make a move, make a decision. That's through population growth, employment. How does it rank with employment nationally, the market that we're looking at? Does it have a nice, diverse economic base? It's not all a one-trick pony, if you will, right? If you were investing around, big business that went out, Enron, for example, if you were investing in multifamily around Enron, and then Enron's gone, what does that do? So, being able to have some diversification is important. We like to look at vacancy rates, growth rates, cap rates, property sales, and the rank. So there's years of experience that goes into these matrix, if you will, that we use. Everybody loves positive cash flow. The advantage with real estate is, one, the positive cash flow, right? I'm not trading my time anymore, like we said. Now, over time, we also get into that equity buildup. Think about a house. If you got a little bit of gray like I do, think about what you paid for your home 25, 30, 40 years ago in comparison to its valuation for now. Over the long haul, not the short, but over the long haul, it always appreciates. The tax benefits for us, we could train on that for days on end. And we do, not just here. Is the time to do it. But I'll talk about depreciation, being able to write off the depreciated value of a property over 27 and a half years. We also do something called cost segregation. It allows us to depreciate fixtures in our assets, maybe the heating and air conditioning. So the tax benefits are massive. Today, it's, the cute line is I no longer take vacations. I only take business trips. That's a reality. I don't take vacations. Everything I do is based around my business today. Forcing appreciation through repairs and rentals, and then just that long-term appreciation, all of which are giving us cash flow. Housing index. So why is rental the way to be? Because homes are no longer available financially. That interest bump, and also the lack of inventory and the cost of single-family homes is so dramatically higher now than it was only 5 years ago that it's priced a huge population right out of the market. The American dream was to own a home. Now the American dream, I think, is to live with a little bit of financial freedom, and that can be achieved without home ownership. And the millennials want to be able to be flexible, to move around. They don't want to be tied down to one home. And the folks that are downsizing, the baby boomers, they're not necessarily committed to home ownership anymore either. So it creates massive opportunity for us. You look at the top 15 markets with rent growth through January of this year. Out of the top 15, for example, a third of them are all in Florida. So that ticks the box for us as to where and when and why we want to be in a market. We're heavily invested in Tampa. We're heavily invested in Cape Coral, Fort Myers. We've been looking at some deals in the Orlando market. Just massive opportunities for us. And opportunity goes in one or two directions, right? Either towards us or away from us, all depending upon the action that we take when it shows up. Guy said to me one time, "You're lucky." I said, "It's not luck." I said, "The definition of luck is when opportunity meets preparedness. When the opportunity arises, am I prepared?" Today I am. I wasn't always, but I put in the work to be prepared to get the results that I have today. And if you flick back to that video that I shared with you, I'll let you know a little secret. I have fun doing it. Okay. It's fun for me. If it wasn't fun, I wouldn't do it anymore. So today it's a case of having fun while we're creating opportunity for our investors and our partners and our students. And then also, obviously, for us as a company going forward. Write this down, the rule of 72. Google it. It's a website, Google, Google. Google the rule of 72, and what it tells you is what does compounding interest do, right? It says that the rule of 72 says the interest rate at which a money is compounding divided by 72 will tell you the amount of years it will take to double. So if I'm earning 1% on my money and I put in 100 grand, it takes me 72 years to double my 100 grand to 200 grand if I'm consistently compounding. That's why people's retirement accounts aren't where they need to be. It's just math. You take 401k plans with the fee structure inside of them that consistently eat away at compounding returns, and you wonder why people are not retiring with ease as they should do. So anyway, I'm not going to get on that soapbox. But what I will do is I'll compare what would it look like if we could get a 12% return. And these are just numbers to project, but 12% compounding consistently year over year at year 24, it's a 1.6 instead of 127,000, right? And just to get excited and show you, what if it was 24%? You know, those numbers look a lot more appealing. So beginning to think about compounding returns, money working. This is what we call the velocity of capital. And we can reach velocity in commercial real estate. You can reach it in single family rentals as well. But I like to put stuff on steroids today and do it on volume. We know that there's money to be made through appreciation and reduction in debt. And that piece in the middle is obviously the equity. So sourcing opportunities, we look at marketing systems and campaigns, obviously, in our own business. We have relationships with brokers, banks, some institutional lenders are in our Rolodex or database, if you will. So we're always communicating with them to see what's going on, what opportunities are in the market for us. We have a database of asset managers that we consistently are talking to in our markets. Institutional investors, as I said, they know what's going on. They'll either liquidate something or they've got a line on a deal flow out there, be it land or property. Established local investors, and then the real secret sauce for us. I don't know how else to put it other than tell you we get first dibs at a lot of the best deals in our market because we've been down in that Florida market for over 25 years, successfully developing, repositioning multifamily assets. If you've ever attended any real estate classes, you might have heard about the unicorn, which is known as the pocket listing. The pocket listing is the fact that when that broker, realtor, banker, institutional investor, whatever, gets a line on a deal, they go to a certain group of men and women. They say, hey, you guys are performers. We know that you're going to get this property done. You can get first dibs at it. And my partner, Walter Novicki, I'll introduce him to you at the end of the presentation, has been in this market for over a quarter of a century now, consistently doing deals on a regular basis, successfully raising capital, deploying capital, building, repositioning, like I said. So that's our secret sauce. Yet we still have these other lines, if you will, out there fishing for deal opportunities, land opportunities. So once I got a property, that's great. I build a building, that's fantastic. And I said to you earlier on, property management is everything. Doing your own due diligence on a property manager, doing your own due diligence on the team itself is critical. Our property managers need to go through an evaluation process to be a part of that team, whether we're using a smaller semi-in-house team or whether we third party, but they will make or break any deal that you do. So property management evaluation, interviewing them, talking to their current clients and tenants, property takeover process, check, evaluation of leasing, tenant communication, maintenance and monthly reporting. The inspection checklist and the due diligence paperwork that we use for property management is probably a binder. It's online now. It's not a binder. See, I just showed you how old I am. But it's an intense system. Save yourself time, energy, money, and stress that we've developed through years of trial and error. And they have to go through that process with us going forward. So what have we done so far? is there an opportunity in the market now? You'll determine that for yourself with some more research, maybe some communication with a company like ours. If you do determine there's an opportunity in the market right now, the next question will be is, well, what position or how could an investor potentially play in that sandbox? Money is not as valuable as it used to be. Skills, understanding, implementation, relationships are the new currency in the marketplace today. There is more money out there right now than there's ever been in the market, as I shared with you. So the guys who used to say, he who has the gold makes the rules, that's maybe not quite where it used to be anymore. We've been in a couple of different deals right now where I've got money competing with money because I've got the golden goose, which is the deal. So once there's that deal opportunity, an investor could decide one of two things. They want to be an active investor, find the deal, monetize the deal, maybe do a syndication and pool capital together for the deal. And then some investors say, you know what, I'm going to sit back and I'm going to let my money work for me rather than me work for the money. And they just make investments into these kinds of opportunities. And we're very blessed at Freedom Venture that we get to work on both sides of that equation, if you will. So who would you invest with, right? A team is always important. Who do you learn from? Again, a team is always important. I'm Dave Seymour. As I said, I shared a little bit about my journey prior to the 12 o'clock start today. I guess my real value in what I do here at Freedom Venture at our company is be approachable, right? Access. Think about some of the larger commercial real estate trainers, educators, syndicators in the marketplace. Access to them as the tip of the spear in the business, if you will, is very limited, if ever. I've made a point to be available to our students. I've made a point to be available to our investors. My number one job is to be a steward of investor capital. My second number one job is to relay pertinent today type information, not yesterday's or the month before or the month before that, is to always be applicable on what we're doing right now. So we're proud of that. We're proud of the access that this team has to our community and our community to us. Walter Novicki, as I said, he's the Gandalf. If you're a Harry Potter fan, he's the wizard, the secret sauce to what we do, because he's got that massive experience in the marketplace. Jackson Stith is a member of our team that came on at the E-suite level with $9 billion worth of experience in capital raising and institutional type deals. So he's a conduit to the larger check writers, $5 to $10 million check writers. Great guy. Excited to have him on the team. He's making some massive moves and inroads for us with some of our larger projects going forward. So who can be with us on the passive investment side? If you are taking notes, this is the time to take a couple of notes. The SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission, determines somebody's ability to invest in commercial real estate transactions passively, meaning they don't operate it. They're not the GP, general partner. The SEC does allow general partners to introduce and attract LP, limited partners, investors into our deals. They come in two categories. They come as an accredited investor and a non-accredited investor. Now, accredited investors are determined by SEC as individuals that earn $200,000 a year or more, $300,000 as a family, or $1 million in net worth. If an investor is accredited, then they can come into certain deals, and they come under what's called a 506C Regulation D deal, 506C Reg D. Now, if that investor is not accredited, they can also come into deals if they have a relationship with the operator, meaning that there's been some good communication. There's some mutual understanding. There are some good questions that have gone between the two individuals, the operators and the non-accredited investors. And they usually limit, in fact, they limit the amount of non-accredited investors that can come into a deal. they would come in under a 506C Reg B deal. So anyway, I just put that out there so that you understand, just because somebody wants to come into your deal doesn't mean they can come into your deal if your deal is only for accredited investors. So let's look at what it is that we do. I've talked about this a little bit, so I'll open up the curtains and let you peek inside a little bit. If you have any interest in what I'm sharing with you, you already know what to do. You're going to go to ir@freedomventure.com. In the topic line of that email, you can put investor community, or you can put investor passive. Investor community, investor passive. And then somebody from the team will touch gloves with you and see what it is that you're looking to achieve and see if we can help you with that. Okay? So our community is based around two things. Our community is based around education. We have a closed community. It's not a Facebook page. It's a closed community in which we educate our investors. It's an online course, for want of a better term, that has been recorded with accompanying documentation. If it's like underwriting, the spreadsheets are attached, checklists, things of that nature. And then as our students, clients, investors, whatever class you want to give them, are going through that education, there are always investment opportunities as well that we bring to our community. Now, those investment opportunities are not just for our community, they're also for our current investor base. However, what I will say is that the questions and the interaction are immediate in this community, because we'll have members communicating with each other. We encourage our investors and our students to bring other people's deals to the forum to have them underwritten. On occasion, we'll do a site visit to either one of our deals, or we'll go look at an investor's deal. So we make it incredibly interactive. We want it to be a foundation that somebody can then work from as they build either their own business or they increase their passive investment capabilities in our investments, in other investments, to be a place to get an opinion, feedback, honesty around what it is that what they plan to do. Here's a short video. I'll share this with you. This smashing lady, she's a high-end realtor from California. We did a site visit with her, and she talks a little bit about what it was like to be with us and to be a part of what it is that we do.
Lisa, Florida. I'm a real estate professional from Southern California, and I came out to Florida to meet A&E's Flippin' Boston, Mr. Dave Seymour. And my reason for coming out here was to actually look more into the private equity fund of Freedom Venture, to actually walk 81 units and a potential 94 units.
Great is you're going to see things that raise questions, and it's so good to actually be in the moment and answer those questions. What do we look for? What are the challenges? How do we fix the challenges? What are the good points? Not everything's bad when you buy an asset like this. And more importantly, what does it look like financially for us as owners, but also for our investors who put capital into these properties? So I'm stoked to see what kind of questions you have and walk the property with you.
Yes, Learning 101.
From the investment standpoint, we buy properties based on their current occupancy and cash flow. That's how we do our analysis. Okay. So there's 26 units here, 5 are empty. So whenever we see empty units, to us it's free real estate, because I ain't paying for this unit because this unit isn't bringing in any money. So when we analyze the whole complex on its current cash flow, and we make our offer based on the capitalization rate that we're prepared to pay at. Does that make sense?
Wow, that's amazing. This is better than California residential real estate. Shh. I was like telling everyone, bring your 100,000 over here.
You've seen a lot of real estate with us today. You've been to a lot of properties. You've seen some things that we love, which we're buying. We've also seen some things that we don't necessarily like, and we showed you why. So my question to you is now this. You're going to write a check for $100,000, $150,000, $200,000. Do you have more confidence in what that capital can do now in comparison to what you would have had at the start of the day today?
Yes, Absolutely, because you laid it all out. We walked through the properties. You showed us individual, like 1 and 2 bedroom units. You walked through so many different scenarios. I asked all the questions I wanted to ask, and you answered all of them.
And I think the most important question you asked today was, or the conclusion that you had, was you're not really necessarily investing in the real estate, because the real estate is sticks and bricks.
Yeah.
But you invested in what?
The people.
The people, the team, right? And their reputation.
Absolutely.
So let's go to the car and get your checkbook.
Let's go. My name is Lisa.
All right. So Lisa, Florida's absolute sweetheart. But I think the takeaway from that was she asked the questions and the questions were answered. So as you can see on the board here, this is a smattering. Is that a word? I think it is. If it is, I'm keeping it. A smorgasbord of some of the deals that we currently have in our portfolio, various stages of development. The first one, Freedom Plaza, is an office build. That one's funded. Cape Vista, 106-unit apartment complex. That's also funded. But as I said earlier on, we've started to expand into development, build for rent, single family communities. What we've done is we've created a couple of different opportunities there for investors, both accredited and non-accredited. Non-accredited only if they have an established relationship with us. Okay, I'm going to say that again. Non-accredited only if they have an established relationship with us. It's very important when you're raising money that you understand the mindset of the people are going to be in the deals with you, because they will truly be partners. We love to educate and then have them be partners if they choose to later. That way, everybody is on the same page and understands the risks as well as the rewards, because this is real estate and it can go sideways. And on occasions, it does go sideways. But once again, did you make the acquisition right on the buy side? So I'm going to talk a little bit about build for rent. These are the statistics. I call it the new kid on the block. Build for rent has grown exponentially in the past year or so. And for us to capitalize on that as a company and with our investors, we put together what's called a build for rent expansion fund. It's a fixed income fund. It's a fund that pays 10% monthly on capital deployed. That capital is used for land acquisition, engineering, architectural, the costs that are incurred as we begin to build out a build for rent community. When the permanent capital through construction loans come onto the project, the principal capital in the expansion fund is sent back to the investor or rolled over. Most choose to roll it over, allowing them to consistently have money working at a higher rate of return going forward. So what does that look like? First of all, it's a 24-month hold on that capital, 10% per annum, as I said, paid monthly. Maturity date on this first fund is November 1st of 2023. As I said, investors, both accredited, non-accredited. And the way that it works, as you can see in the small graph on the bottom, an investor will make a capital investment into the fund. The fixed income expansion fund then makes a loan to our company, Freedom Venture Investments. Freedom Venture Investments pays back that loan at a 10% interest. That 10% interest is then passed back to the investor on a monthly basis. Some people compare this to like a bond market. It's technically classified as a safer investment. When you look at fixed income risk profiles, statistically, fixed income is in a lower risk profile because it is senior in the debt stack, if you will. Senior debt secured, covered bonds are an example of that. So we have core plus, value add, opportunistic. These are all of the risk profiles in the commercial real estate space. Some of our investors like this. Some investors want to get in a more aggressive environment, but it's an opportunity that some of our investors like to participate in while they're going through the learning process going forward. So what are we putting this capital on, for example? So Cape Vista Apartments, like I said, funded. That's off the radar right now. Freedom Plaza is an accredited deal. There's a little bit of a cash position available in that, but not a lot. Falls at Portofino, it's a 25 existing unit acquisition and build 85. We've got Freedom Venture Villas Community, 380 units. It's opportunistic. We're doing that one in the Punta Gorda market. We have two identical lots, 24 acres, with 134 units on each. We've got another 250 unit land acquisition that we're looking at right now. It's the 53,550,000, and then a small light industrial that we're looking at. So as you can see, this is just a taste of what we do and how we do it. But it's aggressive because the opportunity is there when, right? It's right now for us, right? Right now for us. So Freedom Plaza, just to give you an idea, this is our office build, $607 million project cost on this one. This will be our headquarters. Actually, this is going to be in Fort Myers, Florida. We'll be breaking ground on this probably within the next 30 to 45 days. Opportunity for investors to come in this. We raised preferred equity was $1,050,000. Common equity was $500,000. So the total capital raised on this deal, equity contribution from our investors, $1,550,000. Our investors have an expectation. Now, disclaimers, you can lose every dime. So we got that answer. But our investors have an expectation, depending on the position that they take in this deal, of a 1.49 or a 1.6x return on the capital. First money in is a 1.6x. That's the preferred equity. Later money in is the common equity, and that's coming in with a targeted 1.49x. So if you remember when I mentioned earlier, that return profile means if an investor puts 100,000 in, they have an expectation to get their 100,000 back plus 60,000 over the life of the investment, or 49,000 depending on the position in the deal. So I just put that out there to share with you some of the ways that we do these kinds of deals. The fixed income fund, as I said, is a 10% monthly payment. And then the Plaza deal has a little bit of opportunity in it that has a 1.6 and a 1.49 targeted returns on them. So I'm sharing with you some of the optionality that we have. This was a deal that we closed. This one is actually coming to market. We think maybe May, June of this year. We're getting out early because the market is so strong. But the benefits of these is the passivity of it. Obviously, high projected returns, experienced investors. It allows investors to participate in larger deals that they couldn't do on their own. Tax advantages, credibility, that's now part of an investor's portfolio if they invested in this deal. And then also the hands-on learning experience within the community. Every investment has a disclaimer attached to it. If you're going to start putting out deals that you want to raise capital on, within our community, our investor club, we walk through the steps that need to be taken. But this is a look, if you will, of what a presentation actually looks like. This was 14 units. Again, this one's sold. It's already being managed by us. I'm just using it because it's a nice little example. We raised $2,050,000 on this deal. We anticipated 24 to 36 month hold. We're actually going to get out before the 12 months because the market is so strong. But what that did is it allowed us to put a return profile together on this thing. So the $2,050,000 that we raised at the time of resale on this, we anticipate that the profit margin on this is approximately, as you can see on this slide, if I get it right, it's about $1 million. It's about $1 million targeted profit back to the investors. Here you go down here. So $1,034,000 is our targeted exit profit on this deal. So we bought it for $2,050,000. It was 100% unoccupied when we bought it. We leased the whole thing up. We actually leased it up in about 60 days instead of the 90 days that we targeted. Some of our rents were higher. A couple of our rents were right on par with what we projected. So all in all, just a really strong deal for us. So the investors came in on this deal and they'll share in the $1,034,000 targeted profit on the deal over that. Won't even be, like I said, 12 months. It'll probably be around a 10-month hold. So I don't know if everything plans out okay, which we have a high confidence that it will. Not a bad day at the office, right? $1 million profit on a deal in 9 months. Again, hasn't happened yet, but all the indicators are that it's going to be a very strong deal for us. We always put good marketing materials in when we present to our investors with the good statistics that support how we do what we do and why we do it. So it's very important to get that data out there. Remember, we talked earlier about a good diverse base of employment. You can see this was West Palm Beach. crazy year over year rent increases in West Palm. So if you look down here, West Palm Beach, year over year rent increase was 16.3%. So when we pro formed our rents, we only put them in there at 5%. So we're conservative again. So very important to get good data in there. Very important to have open, honest communication with investors. It's always a risk. It's real estate, but the upside potential with good partners, with good education, and more importantly, implementation is really what the key components of this tend to be going forward. So ir@freedomventure.com. When you hit that and send an email in the topic or subject line, put in one or two things or both if you choose to. Investor passive or investor community to be a part of the community club. Somebody from the team will reach back out to you. There is an application process to be within our community to make sure that it is a good fit. Also, if passive investments is a goal, then we will also connect with you from our investor relations team to make sure that your financial goals are in line with our deliverables. Are you accredited or non-accredited? So that we get some really great communication. That's the bottom line on what we do with our community. That is our phone number, 781-922-4418. And I have a gift. I wouldn't come here empty-handed. In your search bar, so write this down maybe on your notepad or whatever it is you've been using to take the notes. On your search pad, put in cashflow.freedomventure.com, cashflow.freedomventure.com. So you have an email address, and now you have a web address. The web address, cashflow.freedomventure.com. Go there now. Plug that in, and you'll have an opportunity to download this white paper. Think of it as an ebook. It's a gift from me to you for showing up and being here. But it really breaks down it's at a pretty high level. It's not your beginner level, but get into the data and the information anyway. It talks about what questions should a passive investor ask. What should you know if you want to be an operator? And why is it potentially for an individual important to have this kind of diversification, this kind of diversification in their own portfolio, in their own investment portfolios. So once again, cashflow.freedomventure.com. If you would like to be trained by us, if you would like to be a part of our community, if you want to learn what it is that we do at a high level to either be an operator yourself and learn how to do these deals, or two, be a passive investor in these deals, or both, then go to ir@freedomventure.com. Tap in the topic bar there, the content bar, either passive investor or community investor club, anything along those lines. As you can see, just get the lines of communication going forward. So that's the end of my presentation.
So I want to thank you so much for coming on, sharing your knowledge and wisdom with our audience today. And you definitely want to reach out to Dave, get an appointment with his community, and how he can help and serve you. And we're blessed to have you here, be part of the High Performance Assessment. Dave, thank you again so much.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. And I can see on my screen, you've got some absolute rock stars coming up, real good friends of mine, Mr. Fink, Mr. Blazar. Great stuff, man.